Hello, I'm your host, the Unlucky Moviegoer, and our story today is about a girl, lots of running, and well, we'll leave it at that so you can enjoy the mystery for yourself. We open to schoolgirls chopping it up on a bus when one of them suggests a pillow fight. Said girl pulls the pillow out of nowhere and begins duking it out. Feathers fly everywhere. Our main character Mitsuko does not partake in the shenanigans. She instead writes in her book. Everyone's having a great time. Mitsuko suddenly drops her pen. Mitsuko picks up her pen. And all of a sudden, a mysterious force chops everyone in half. Mitsuko is sprayed with blood and stares bewildered as the bus slows to a stop. The windy force comes back for Mitsuko as she ducks and dodges it. It looks like she put some skill points in dexterity. Mitsuko takes off screaming and she runs past the bodies of her fallen classmates. The mysterious force follows her as she's running down the street. She runs past some joggers and warns them to get down. She saves someone, but that doesn't last long because said someone gets chopped up trying to save some bikers. A true hero. Mitsuko runs some more. She ends up at a river and sees some more girls' bodies. She cleans off and grabs a fresh pair of clothes. Mitsuko wanders around and suddenly runs into some schoolgirls who strangely seem to know her. One of the girls, Aki, seems worried about her, leaving Mitsuko confused. She questions Aki about who she is and Aki plays it off because she thinks Mitsuko is joking. It seems they've known each other for a long time. A perverted gust of wind blows through and Mitsuko seems traumatized. Aki tries to calm her down when another strong gust of wind comes back, and Mitsuko takes off. Aki tries her best to calm her down some more, promising everything will be fine. The teachers wonder what's wrong with Mitsuko and Aki just comments she's having a bad day. Mitsuko hysterically tells Aki about what transpired earlier, both of them thinking it must have been a dream. She freaks out some more about the wind when Aki opens the window so Mitsuko can see that everything is fine. Aki suggests her and Mitsuko take a walk later. Mitsuko still seems to remember nothing, so Aki takes them to homeroom. Aki introduces Mitsuko to her friends Taiko and Sir. She then suggests they all skip class. The gang runs down the hallway and we get to see some more high school underwear like we're watching a whole harem anime. They all run through the forest whilst having a great time. The girls get to the lake out of breath. Aki gives her a look and tells her she'll always be there for her. Mitsuko responds with what I can only assume is her impression of a Pokemon. Aki tells the girls about Mitsuko's dream. Sir says it's possible she was in an alternate reality. She explains alternate universes to the girls and Taiko does not seem to understand. Suddenly, a giant crocodile jumps out of the water and chomps up Taiko. But don't worry, it's just Sir's imagined scenario. The girls notice someone was sleeping in the area and see some pillows. Of course, no girl can resist a pillow fight, so they begin tossing said pillows around. Feathers fly around everywhere and Mitsuko notices blood on her finger. Girls look down at Mitsuko and one seems to be in a wedding dress. Mitsuko snaps back to reality and continues tossing the pillow. Sir says if they want to change reality, to do something unexpected, and flashes us some more. Then also ponders if she was predestined to do just that. She ponders if reality can be changed at all. Aki and Mitsuko run back to class. The teacher asks them where they went and Aki covers by saying they were dizzy. Class begins and Mitsuko looks down to see another pillow. Aki tells her to pass said pillow, when suddenly the class is blasted by a hail of gunfire. The trigger man, or rather the trigger woman, is none other than the teacher. The teacher walks over to Mitsuko yelling at her for skipping class. Taiko and Sir rush in to save her and we see that other students have been slain throughout the school. They run and hide and a girl claims her teacher killed everyone in her class. Said teacher walks in and the girl takes an L by revealing herself. She gets hit with the glizzy. Taiko goes in for the tackle and gets jacked up. A true hero. Sir and Mitsuko take this opportunity to run and Sir gets blasted. So close. She tells Mitsuko that life is surreal and don't let it get her. Mitsuko runs with other girls down the hallway and outside. The girls are running while a hail of gunfire and rockets go off. The teachers seem to be really experienced with combat. One of the girls is telling Mitsuko to do something, saying it's all up to her, when suddenly the wind from earlier comes back and chops up the girl she was running with. She runs from the wind to a more urban environment into a police station. As she does this, she hears screams but sees no one screaming. She seems to be traumatized. The cop introduces herself as Tomoko and calls Mitsuko by a different name, Keiko, and asks her what's wrong. It seems the cop already knows her. She also wonders why Mitsuko is wearing a school uniform. Mitsuko looks into a mirror and to her shock sees someone completely different in her reflection. Tomoko suddenly tells Mitsuko she's late to the reception and pulls her into her car. As Tomoko and Mitsuko drive, women in dresses smile and excitedly bang on the car. Tomoko tells Mitsuko they're 25 and they arrive to cheering girls in dresses. Tomoko gets out excited as well. Mitsuko, well now Keiko, but we're still gonna call her Mitsuko, is swarmed and rushed into an elegant looking building. She runs into none other than Aki in a dress, who tells her to get dressed herself. Mitsuko calls out to her confused, and Aki cryptically says they will talk later. It seems Mitsuko is getting married. Aki is about to do her makeup when the wind traumatizes her. The rest of the girls bring back her dress. Aki asks if Mitsuko recognizes her. Aki then says Mitsuko is both Keiko and Mitsuko. Aki seems rushed and tells her she'll explain later, and that they are watching. She also says it's Mitsuko's wedding and to play along for now. Aki gets Mitsuko suited up for the wedding, then suddenly she tells her to watch closely as she begins snapping girls' necks left and right. Aki yeets Tomoko and proceeds to do the same to everyone in the room in brutal fashion. She grabs Mitsuko and tells her to help body this last girl. It seems Aki wants to style on her. They perform a finisher on the poor girl and carry on about their business. It always seems like the last person in a fight scene gets it the worst, but I digress. Aki gives Mitsuko a broken glass bottle and tells her to defend herself. They walk into the wedding and no one seems alarmed that Mitsuko has a broken bottle in her hand. They start getting a tad rougher on Mitsuko, then start going absolutely berserk, taking off clothes and everything. They open the coffin to reveal the groom and start cheering for Mitsuko to kiss him. She stabs and kills the pig groom, then proceeds to murk the other girls. They begin to run. Aki grabs Mitsuko in the commotion and two girls in black walk in. They get ready for battle and begin to fight. A bloody battle ensues. The girls in black put up a good fight, but they're no match for our main duo, especially since Mitsuko has her trusty broken bottle. The girls run into the city. Aki says to run while she lures away their pursuers. Mitsuko runs into the city and gets flagged down by another girl dressed as a runner. The girl calls Mitsuko Izumi and begins to run alongside her. Mitsuko, who was Keiko but is now Izumi, but we're still gonna call her Mitsuko, looks into a mirror and, as expected, looks like someone completely different. She confusingly asks the girls what's going on and they laugh thinking she's joking. They all continue to run. She runs to a straightaway and a crowd begins cheering Mitsuko on. The girls claim they've always been in the same track team. Mitsuko begins having memories of her running in grade school. The girls start reminiscing about the past and she begins to remember everything they're saying. Her friends are cheering her on and she hits the boosties, overtaking all the front runners. She sees Sir and Taiko as she's running. Then Aki runs alongside her, telling her to focus. The girls in black and Pigboy from earlier start chasing after them, not without catching some bodies on the way. Pigboy even starts to style a bit. Sir is telling her she needs to escape this world, saying it's up to her, and Taiko agrees with this sentiment. All the while, the girls in black are not far behind. Mitsuko hops a fence and is running through a forest. People still seem to be cheering for her along the way, until she gets to an underground structure. Some really sus girl beckons her over. The girl grabs Mitsuko and pulls her into a cave. A bunch of seemingly possessed looking girls are in front of her. The girl from earlier asks Mitsuko kindly to die, claiming that if Mitsuko is alive, they will die. She starts to show off some knife moves and approaches Mitsuko, screaming at her, claiming everyone dies because of her. She's about to give Mitsuko the business when Aki comes out of nowhere and deletes her. Aki tells her it's time for more running. Mitsuko, who at this point needs to be a long-distance runner for the Olympics, follows. Aki tells Mitsuko to say her name continuously. Mitsuko begins to scream her name and turns back into the original Mitsuko from earlier. Aki then tells her to close her eyes, then to open them. She opens them to cables in Aki's arms. Aki tells her to pull them and destroy her. Mitsuko says she can't and gets smacked.
Damn.
Aki tells her they're in a fictional world that someone dragged them in, and since Mitsuko is the main character, only she can stop them. Aki claims they'll keep chasing and killing Mitsuko forever if she doesn't destroy her and make an exit. Mitsuko pulls the cables and gruesomely rips Aki apart and sees a bright light ahead. She walks towards the exit into a kitchen with people cooking fiercely. She walks through the kitchen and opens the door to a place called the Mail World. She sees herself on a poster. It's titled "The Legendary Game is Back. Tag." This guy walks over asking if she's okay, saying he never thought she'd get this far. She says, "It's you," implying that she's met him before. He claims she's actually in the future and she passes out. She wakes up in that underground cave place again and walks out in a daze. She begins walking through a passage past schoolgirls all standing still on the walls. She recognizes one of the girls as a person from earlier along her travels. Mitsuko walks over to an old man playing her life as a video game. He tells her she died a long time ago in the spring of 2034. He says he got her DNA as well as her friends and shows her herself along with her other selves preserved in a chamber. Trippy. She says her DNA is used for their entertainment and begins to laugh maniacally. The guy from earlier walks in and excitedly takes off his clothes, telling her to come over. The old man tells her his dream from 150 years ago is going to come true. He says to go to the man while looking rather excited. They lay together as she has flashbacks of Sir saying, "Do something unexpected." The man leans over to kiss her and she begins to choke him, screaming, "Stop playing with us like toys." She starts attacking the man with a pillow. She grabs the old man's cane and stabs herself. He gets very upset and she has flashes of a more enjoyable life without the carnage and death she's seen the whole movie. In all these instances, she stabs herself to the genuine shock of all the girls around her, who run over to her screaming. We get a shot of Mitsuko in a blank space saying, "It's over," then running off through said space. The end. Don't watch too much TV. Get some fresh air.